We have been looking at buildings to rent out for wedding rentals. The goal is to make Kimmy's supply of decorations kind of pay for themselves. And right now, they're kind of unworkable, all being in storage units. So we've been looking at places. And so we kind of have a small budget. And we've now looked at 3 places. So I thought I'd put together a little video of the 3 places that we looked at and kind of tell you about them. The first place we looked at was pretty close to us. And I mean, it was really close to where the storage units are, or it's really close to where the storage units are. It is about 3,000 square feet. And I think realistically, we at minimum need about 1,500 square feet. I think 3,000 square feet would be ideal because I think realistically, I think we're using about 1,200 square feet to store everything right now that I think we should move out and into a place. So I think 1,500 is the low end. I think 3,000 would be great. So the first place was 3,000 square feet. It had a really small like front office or like a front area because it used to be a like car mechanic place. So it had 3 bays. Well, it had 4 bays across the front, but 2 of those bays were like double length and one of them went all the way through. It was great space wise, and it's in a great location. One of the drawbacks was that it is triple the budget. I know we could probably talk him down a little bit on the pricing, but asking him to take a third is a lot because it's in a great location and he didn't want an unreasonable amount of money for it. I think right now the market's pretty variant on pricing, and it kind of depends on whether or not we want an industrial space or a retail space. I think the problem with industrial spaces is that it gets really cold here, and even if we got a place close to what we were looking for to rent, would the cost of heating an industrial space, because we want to be comfortable while we're working, we're not, going to be wearing, fire-resistant clothing to work on cars. We're just going to be wearing our regular clothes, and it would be nice to not be wearing our jackets. And if I'm in the space, chances are I'll have Eric. So the industrial space, well, great. I think long term or even short term, it doesn't make sense for us. So we have continued looking. So the next place that we looked, we've been talking about looking at for a long time, and there just kept being kind of miscommunications about who was calling and who we were calling, and there's just a lot of kind of miscommunications about it. But I finally got the phone number of the person I needed to call, and it was my understanding that she had an idea that we would be calling. So she is a lawyer, and her name's Donna. Her and her husband, I believe, own this huge old church. The church itself is about 21,000 square feet, and they're turning it into a wedding venue, which would be great for us to move into because it's kind of built in. It's similar in, it would just be built-in work for us. And I think it's a good relationship to build. Somebody that owns a venue, because she is her family's renovating the sanctuary, and then their plans are to renovate the fellowship hall to then have a place to do receptions. So the space that we looked at, there's one section of the building that's like meeting rooms and offices. I know the church that used to be there, like in one of the rooms have met like in a small group in one of those rooms. I know they have youth group rooms, but so we were looking at different sections of it, and what we ultimately decided was there were 3 rooms that totaled about 1,700 square feet. And they were all right together. The problem was that it was up 11 stairs. And so for the right price, 11 stairs isn't a big deal. But when the goal is to eventually be renting out a lot of stuff, moving stuff up and down the stairs all the time becomes kind of a problem. And so I emailed Donna and said, hey, I think we're interested. What price are we talking? And she said that we were looking at about $500 more a month than what our budget is. And for the perfect place that had everything we wanted, I think that's like a number we could negotiate down from. We could talk about that. But she's not wanting an unreasonable amount of money for the space. It's not an unreasonable number, but it's not the perfect place. We also have some other stuff that needs stored that wouldn't have worked up there. Like we have my brother-in-law's old paint booth, and I think he'd eventually like to set that up. It would be great, I think, to have that, and maybe even he wants to set up his hydro dip tank again at some point. If we could eventually do custom stuff for people's weddings with those things, I think that would be great. And so having a place to put those would really be beneficial, I think. So this place, we couldn't set up any of that stuff because it's really, I mean, their offices or, meeting rooms or whatever. And so I think these places or those rooms, while definitely workable, are realistically, for that price, not going to work. And so we went to a third place today, and I keep telling Kimmy and Clyde and anyone I talk to about this, like, it's not an episode of House Hunters. We don't need to find it in 3 places. I think this third place, though, has some potential to be the place. Okay, so we are, I think, about a week and a half since I filmed the last parts of this video. And so the next space that I'm going to talk about, when I originally recorded it, was looking really promising, and it actually got rented, but I'm still going to share it with you. It is a place in a shopping center. It's about 1,400 square feet. It, like on paper, like the numbers were going to work out pretty okay. And so it's kind of the pros of it is that it had an industrial space in the back that we could have set up Sam's paint booth. And it had an office space that would have made a great tablecloth room. The numbers were good. We were really interested. And then we found out it was rented before we had even gone in, and that had gotten lost in translation somewhere. So this was space number 1 in that building. The second space was actually the old music store that we used to know the owners, or we still know the owners. And it's a little bit bigger square footage wise. So talking about 2 separate spaces here. So the second space in the same shopping center is a little bit bigger square footage wise. It is I mean, it would be an okay fit. And so we went to look at it today, and I actually got to talk real numbers, and I think, again, this space is going to be too expensive, which keeps being our downfall. And so the person I talked to is actually in charge of like the retail rentals for this real estate company. He's been on vacation, so I'm going to give him a call tomorrow and be really honest about our square footage wants and what our budget is. I wouldn't mind being in the shopping center, and if we can work a number closer to what's realistic for us, then that's gonna be what we need a more realistic number, and everything keeps being at least 50% more than we can afford, and that's really frustrating. And so we're kind of in limbo, but I thought I'd share the spaces that we've recently looked at, and you can kind of just be on this journey with us. Thanks for watching.